which is right at the top of Daf Tzadik Tesam Aleph. Behind the Amarlei Ahumina Rabavo. This min told Rabavo, Amosai Asi Mashiach. He asked, when does Mashiach come? So he answered him, L'chichafi l'hu chashucha l'hani inchi. When you drop dead, when you're going to be in darkness. Amarlei Melech Kalaidis. Are you cursing me? Amarlei, no, Krok. It's a pasuk that says that Kehine hachoshech yichasa aretz, when the darkness covers the land, and the darkness will cover the nations of the world. And on you, Klal Yisrael, Yizrach Hashem u'chavodah alecha yera. The sun will shine on you, and its honor will be seen upon you. Tanya Rabbi Lozer Omer, Yemoisa Mashiach Arbaim Shon. Yemoisa Mashiach is 40 years. So we're talking about when the world as we know it changes. Then there's Yemoisa Mashiach, and eventually there'll be Olam Haba. So there's Yemoisa Mashiach is only 40 years. Shenemar Arbaim Shana Akut B'dar. What is Akut B'dar? So Rashi, Akut B'dar is Ekach Yisrael ve'em lo yichaleim. For 40 years, I'm going to take Klal Yisrael and I'm going to rule over them. K'may Nokte, I will take. Arbaim Shana Akut B'dar. B'dar Katan Shal Arbaim Shana Shu Mishuna Midar Shalafana, which is different than the generations that were before it. Umistama Hayim Mashiach. Why will those 40 years be different? Probably because Mashiach is going to come. There will be great changes in his generations. Okay, Kavalpik. The Pashas of the pasuk is referring to the Mesei Midbar. Which is a lotion of the future. Mashma af lahavi af laba hayamil. I'm sorry. Only 40 years. That's what this sheet says. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says. Rabbi Eliezer ben Nazariah Omer Shivim Shana, 70 years is going to be the Yemoisa Mashiach. Shenemar Vaya Bayam Ahu v'nishkachas Tzur Shivim Shana. Those days it'll be found the Tzur of 70 years. Kimei Melech Echad, like the life of one king, referring to the king of David HaMelech, who also lived for 70 years. Euzelach Miyuchad, who is the Miyuchad king of Omer Zeh Mashiach, it's referring to the Melech HaMashiach, who's going to rule for 70 years. Rabbi Omer, it's Shloisha Doros, it's 3 generations. Shenemar Yiraucha Shemesh, you'll be seen with the Shemesh, V'lefnei Erech, and in front of the moon, Dor Dorim. Dor is 1 door, Dorim is 2 doors, so 2 plus 1 is 3. Rashi says, Kaloimar, Bahade Mashiach, Shekasa boy, Lifnei Shemesh, Yinayin Shemoi. So that's why it says Yiraucha Shemesh is referring to Melech HaMashiach. Why? Because we know that by L'gabe Mashiach, it's just Lifnei Shemesh, Yinayin Shemoi. If you remember, that's how Rabbi Yanai knew that Mashiach's name is Yinayin. Yiraucha Yisrael, Klal Yisrael will be seen. L'fnei Yerech, meaning L'fnei Malchus Beis David, Shenimshal Kiyerach, the before the Malchus Beis David, which is compared to a Yerech, K'dichsiv, Kiyerach Yikayin Olam. K'moikein Yerucha Dor Dorim, so too Dor Achar Dorim is Beis Hari Gimel. So there'll be 3 generations. Rab Hillel Omer Ein Lahem Mashiach LiYisrael. Rab Hillel's shita we heard on Daf Tzad Chesed Aleph. It was a sobering thought. Ein Lahem Mashiach LiYisrael Shekvar Achalu B'mei Chizkiah. We already used up our opportunity, our Melech HaMashiach, in the days of Chizkiah. Chizkiah was the Mashiach. Zok to Rashi. Ein Lahem Mashiach LiYisrael El HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimlech Ba'atzmai V'yigalam Levadai. So he says, Avadi there will be a Geula, and Avadi there will be a Moshe Mashiach, but it won't be Melech HaMashiach, it'll be the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Sharlei Marei LeRab Hillel. I think the Rebbeinu Shalom should be Moichalim, because he's wrong. Because Chizkiah Amos had. What period of time did Chizkiah Melech rule in? V'vayis Rishon, during the first Beis HaMikdash. Vilu Zechariah, who said Nevuah about Mashiach, Chamis Nabe B'bayis Sheni, which is way after Chizkiah. Yet Zechariah was still saying Nevuah, the Mashiach was coming. V'yomar gili me'oid b'aszion, be very happy b'aszion, hari b'as Yishalayim, hine malkich yavoy lecha, tzadik, v'noi shahu, oni v'rechav alachamor. Val'ir ben asaynos. So it says clearly after the life of Chizkiah, in the future, there is going to be a Mashiach. Zok Rashi, v'lu Zechariah miyah misnava al Mashiach v'va'isheni, t'chsiv v'treyasor, hine malkich yavoy lach. V'lav hainu Zechariah ben Yayad HaKoyin, sheniba b'bayis rishon. This is not the Zechariah who said Nevuah in the Bayis Rishon. So you might say this was before. You might argue this was before Chizkiah. Zechariah ben Berachia, Shoy b'machos Dayavish, who's clearly in the second Beis Hamikdash, who's clearly after Chizkiah. Thank you so much. Zaktimar Tanya Idach, Rabbi Eliezer Omer Yemoshe Mashiach Arboim Shana. Yemoshe Mashiach will be 40 years. Ksivhacha v'yancha v'yayivecha v'yachilcha, and this is referring to the Yidden in the Midbar. Uksivhasam samchenu kimois inisanu, like the same amount of time that you were v'yancha shnois ra'inu ra, which is referring to the Zman of Mashiach will also be 40 years. So he doesn't learn it out of Arboim Shana Akad B'dar, he learns it out of here. Rabdais Yomer Dalud Me'ay Shana. It's going to be 400 years. Why? Because Ksiv Hacha Vavadum V'inu Oisam, referring to Mitzrayim Arba Me'ay Shana. So the Inisanu is referring to the Inu Oisam of 400 years, not the V'yantcha V'yayivecha of 40 years. Rabbi Yomer, it's Gimel Me'ayis. It's 365 days, just like the cycle of the sun. Shenemar kiyoim nakam belibi. There's a day of nakama in my heart. Ushnas gulai ba, and the years of Agula are coming. Ma yoim nakam belibi. What does yoim nakam belibi mean? Rabbi Yochanan lilibi galisi. This is internally. I never discussed this. This is my own machshava. The Rabbi Shalom saying kavayachol. I didn't even share with my avarim. In other words, I'm not sharing the site of when Mashiach is coming. It's a site. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omer lelibi galisi, but lemalach yashar is like galisi. It means I didn't even tell the malachim when it is that I'm going to bring Mashiach. Shmak. Let's see Rashi on the 365. Dr. Rashi, Rabbi Yomer Shein Samachay, communing the Moshe Chamat, Tchsev Kiyem Nokam Belibi, Ushnas Gulai Ba. Liyoim Nokat, Liyoim Nokam Shel Meraglim Arbaim Yoim. The Nakama, the punishment, was for the 40 days that Meraglim violated. Ma Yoim Nokam Shel Meraglim Shana Achas B'chol L'chol Yoim. There was 1 year of staying in the Midbar that Rabban Shalom punished Klal Yisrael with for every day that they spent in their espionage. K'dichsev yoim l'shana. Kach shnas gulai ba shana l'yoim. So too, shnas gula, which I said goes by the 365 days of a solar cycle. It's that many years that there will be the period of Yemoshe Mashiach. Shall call Yoim v'Yoim shall Shana Zu Aksuba Shnas Gulai b'Mikra Zeh Noistin Shana Achas. So since the pasuk says Shnas Gulai, the year of Gula, we learned that it means 365 years. V'Istagasi Rabbi Yoim Mashiach Samachay Alafim Shana. It's 365,000 years. That's a long time. The Chsiv Shnas Gulai Ba Mishana Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu Hachiava is 1,000 years. Dichsiv ki elav shanim beinecha kiyayim. Okay, that would be a long time, but that's after Mashiach comes. That's doing Yemoshe Mashiach. So we don't know exactly what's going to be in each case. But there's one shot that Mashiach will come, and we're not going to have Shibud Malchus, and then Hashem is going to change the whole world. It's not going to be a Megushim world anymore, right? Hashem is going to do a major renovation on the world. Again, I think the Rambam says, when it comes to all these things, you know when we'll know exactly what's happening, when it happens. Tani Avimai Barei Dabravo. Yimois HaMashiach LiYisrael Shivas Alofim Shan. It's going to be 7,000 years. Shnemar Umesois Chasan Al Kala Ken Yosy Alayich Elekoich. And we know a Chas and Kala have 7 days of Sheva. I mean, we don't Shmuel. Yimois HaMashiach is Kimiyoim Shenivra Olam V'Yad Achshav. As long as is the world was from the beginning of when it was created until now, that's how long the Yimois HaMashiach will be. In our case, it's probably 1,000 years more than what Shmuel was referring to. Shenamar says in the pasuk, Kimei Hashemayim Alords. Okay, now we say Krishna, right? The man Yubi Yemechem Mebenechem, I guess B'Shas Mashiach, Kimei Hashemayim Alords. Rab Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar Kimei Noach Ad Achshav. From the time of Noach until now, it's that amount of years that we're going to be in. So it's a little bit less than Shmuel Shita. Because that amount of years we're going to be in Yimois HaMashiach. Shneimar ki mei Noach zois li asher nishpati. Let's see Rashi. They weren't in the land so much. We will be in Eretz Yisrael for a much longer time once Mashiach comes. It's like Kimei Noach. The amount of years that are in Noach's hands, meaning the years after Noach. So the amount of time that passed since the waters of Noach until now, that's how long it's going to take in the Yimois HaMashiach. Kein nishbati kvi oisech cheshbon nishbati miketzef alecha umigarbach. Shaloi achiv esaylami, I will not. So I'm swearing from getting angry at you, from destroying the world. I'm going to leave that world for that period of time. Shaloi achiv esaylami la'achas yav Mashiach at sheyichal zazman. I'm not going to destroy the world and do the major innovation until this amount of time passes. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara weiter. Amar Rab Chiya bar Abba Amar Birchim. Kol Nevim Kulam Lo Nisnabu Elo Yimois HaMashiach. All of the nevuah that we've heard from this different neviim about how wonderful it's going to be, that's referring to the Yimois HaMashiach. Aval Olam Haba, that we don't see any nevuahs about because that's so beyond us. We don't even grasp what's going to happen over there. Ayin loy rasa elakim zulascha yasa lemechakalei. And I can't appreciate it. The Rebbeinu Shalom only knows what's going to be. As Rashi says, the ein kates l'davar. There's no way for us to even comprehend it. Upliga de Shmuel. This would argue on Shmuel. Damar Shmuel ein ben olam hazeh liyimois HaMashiach al shibud malchiyos bilvad. Shmuel said there won't be any difference between this olam and that olam and Shibud Malchus. So all the Nevi'im that were saying these fabulous things about Mashiach must be referring to olam haba, because we already know that there's no difference at all other than Shibud Malchus between today's days and Yimois HaMashiach. All of the wonderful things that the Navi tells us are going to occur when Mashiach comes, that's only for Bali Tshuva. Aval tzadikim gemurim ayin loy rasa elikim zulascha. So the Bali Tshuva is going to have that, but I think the tzadikim are going to have even more, and we can't even describe what it's going to be the schar in the life of a tzaddik gomer. Upligi der bavo damar bavo verkehrt. Mokim shabali tshuva aimdim sham tzadikim ein aimdim sham. The Bali Tshuva are greater. So there's a little shiloh who's greater. Someone who never did an Aveira, or someone who did an Aveira did Tshuva. Shenemar Shalom Shalom La Rochaik V'Lakarei. Bereisha Rochaik. First the Rochaik, somebody who was Rochaik because he did Aveiras and then he did Tshuva. The Hadar Karev, and only then will there be Shalom to the Karev who never did an Aveira. My Rochaik Demi Kara. Rochaik means he was originally Rochaik, but now he's about Tshuva. My Karev to me, Karev Udahashta. The Karev is someone who's always Karev because he never went away from Hashem. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he learns differently. V'rochik meaning shu rochik me'avera. So shalom shalom l'karev v'larochik, someone who is shalom shalom l'rochik v'lakarev, someone who's rochik me'avera and karev shu karev me'avera v'nisrachik mena, because Rabbi Yochanan was the one who learned that the tzaddikim gemurim are going to be on the higher madrega. Let's see Rashi. Rashi says, tzaddikim ein eindim the gadol koichan shel balei tshuva shein berya yechoyle lamoid b'mechitzas. They're the greatest. V'reisha l'rachik shenisrachik min hakadosh baruch hu v'yachik achshav ela b'teshuva v'hador shalom l'karov meikara who's the tzaddik hamar. The gadol koichan shel balei tshuva. So yerachik min hanaveir kol yamav then is how the gomer Rabbi Yochanan learns punkt verkehrt. Zogt the Gemara weiter. The Amar Rab Chia bar Abba Amar Rab Yochanan. Kol Anavim Kulam Nisnabu Ela Lamasi Bitoi LeTalmud Chacham. You know who's going to be zoicha to these great nisim that the Nevi'im are talking about? People who married off their children to a Talmud Chacham. U'la'oisa pragmatio LeTalmud Chacham. And someone who looks to do business with a Talmud Chacham. U'la'mahana Talmud Chacham in Nechasa. And someone who sees to it that a Talmud Chacham should have enough from his Nechasim. Aval, Talmidei Chacham Matzman, but the Talmidei Chacham themselves, they're even in a higher madrega than that, and their schar is going to be even greater. Ayin le'rasa alekim zulos. My ayin le'rasa, Amri Rabbi Shua ben Levi, zeyayin hamishumur ba'nov of misheshish me'bereshis. This is like wine that remained in the grapes and sheshish me'bereshis, and the Mefarshim say it could be it's a mashal. It means it's a certain bracha and toiv that never ever came out because it's being saved for the tzaddikim that are going to be around, and they are going to get this an over the top bracha that nobody didn't even talk about. Rosh Lakish Amar Ze Eden. It's referring to Eden. Eden is what the tzaddikim are going to get. Loi Rasa. Ayin Ma'olam. So Eden was never seen by anybody. Ayim Taibar Adam Heichador began. Where did Adam live? Comma. Didn't he live in Gan Eden? So what do you mean no one ever saw Eden? Adam was there. Dr. Gemara, no. Adam did not live in Gan Eden. He lived in Began. He just lived in Gan, not in Gan Eden. Bim Taimer Gan Hu Eden. And if you want to tell me what do you mean? Gan is Eden. It's Gan Eden. It's one thing. Right there in the first parsha, Bereshis, it says there was a river that came out of Eden to irrigate the Gan. So Eden and Gan are different things, and Eden is this is over the top. It's just over the top of Ayin Rosh Hazois. Nobody can understand what it is. Now, one of the people on the list who does not see Olam Haba is the Omer Ein Torah Min Hashemayim. Right, that goes back to our mission. Tanur Rabbanan. Oh, rebellious favorite pasuk. Gidvar Hashem Bosra. Umitzvasai Hefar. He kares to kares. It's talking about Megadif or Oibet of Dezorah, but we learn Gidvar Hashem Bosra is referring to many different things. Zeh Omer Ein Torah Min Hashemayim. What's that?
Anything you did wrong in yeshiva.
The Dvar Hashem Bosra. Kekel ball and Davar Acher. Gidvar Hashem Bosra. That's referring to Zapikoris. What an Apikoris is, Rashi says you'll have to wait to Amud Beis to tell us what it is. Rashi before Shlakaman, as some other items that are going to be in this list. Which is what another thing on the list of what we're going to see on Amud Beis. That's someone who reverses the bris milah and makes his aver look as if it was not ever nimal. We refuse to have a bris. So let me see what it says. Okay. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Tikares mean, as we learned once before, Hikares is Boilam Hazeh, and Tikares is La'olam Haba. Hikan Omer Rabbi Lozer HaMeidoi, HaMachalal Es HaKotchim. This is the Rav's favorite halacha, so we have to, we can call us a little bit tracks again, we're getting close to Pesach. HaMachalas HaKotchim, telling him it was Machal HaKotchim, HaMevazes HaMayadois, and telling him it was Mevazes HaMayadois. The Rav always says Mevaza means not doing malacha, means not dressing properly, right? You can't wear weekday clothing. which is not doing the bris, which we still don't know what that means. He could be a big Tamachachim. Like Yerav Menavot, right? He was a big Talmud Chacham, but not Yerav Menavot. I'm referring to the Eitzakim, who's a Doeg Adoim, like Doeg Adoim. He was a Mazal Talmud Chacham. He was a Meyuchad Sheva Chabura, but he didn't end up to it. Tanya Idach Kidvar Hashem Boza Ze Omer in Torah Min Hashemayim. That's someone who denies that Torah is Min Hashemayim. Afilu Omer Kol HaTorah Kulu Min Hashemayim Chutz Mi Pasuk Zeh. Shaloi Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ela Moshe V'Piatzmai. Even if one pasuk you say is Moshe's own addition, Zeu Kidvar Hashem Boza. That is defined by Kidvar Hashem Boza. Afilu Omer Kol HaTorah Kulu Chutz Min Hashemayim Chutz Mi Diktuk Zeh Mikal V'Chomer Zeh Migzer Shavazu. Now, Diktuk and Kal V'Chomer is one thing. Gzer Shavazu is something you heard from your Rebbe, right? You're denying Messiah that you heard from your Rebbe. Chutz Migzer Shavazu Zeu Kidvar Hashem Boza. Rashi comments on the Gzer Shava. So Rashi says, I'm reading this Rashi because I don't know what it says. So I'm looking at the, I don't know what this letter says. The Zayin? The Nun. It looks like a Nun. So the Nun over here says, She Amar Lei. So Amalei Rabbi Gzer Shava. His Rebbe told him Gzer Shava. Loy Gomer Rabbi, unless Veloy Gomer Rabbi. So I just put figure. If you say your own Gzer Shava, you make your own Torah. So you're not saying this is not in the Torah. You're making your own Gzer Shava that you did not learn from your Rebbe. Since it has to be Messiah Gzer Shava, and you made up your own Gzer Shava, that's what's called denying something of Torah Min Hashemayim. That's a little interesting twist. He's not saying what you said is not Min Hashemayim. He said his own thing that is not Min Hashemayim, and he's trying to make that part of the Torah. So that's why I want to see Rashi, because it's a very clear distinction, a departure from the other denials of Torah Min Hashemayim. Tanya Haya Rabbi Meir Omer Haloim Torah ve'enoi melamdo. One who learns Torah but doesn't teach. He has an opportunity to teach and he doesn't. Zehu Dvar Hashem Basa. Rabbi Nosson Omer Kol mi she'enoi mashkiach al hamishna. Someone who is not mashkiach on a mishnah. Let's see if Rashi says what this is. Hamishna is she'oisa k'moi she'enoi ikar. He doesn't give it the proper respect and acknowledge that is the source of our halacha. Someone who had an opportunity to learn and didn't learn. That's someone who does avodah zara. My mashma the Tana devei Rabbi Shmuel kidvar Hashem baza zeh hamavaza dibur shenemer loy leMoshe misinai. That's someone who was mavaza a dibur that was sent to Moshe. Zeh oived avodah zara. Hanu dvar Hashem. Why is it called dvar Hashem? Because it's a dibur. Shadiber Hakadosh Baruch Hu B'Atzman Yisrael. So the reason why we refer to Avodah Zarah as Dvar Hashem is because that's one of the commandments that the Rebbeinu Shalom himself directly told Klal Yisrael, not through any shliach. Those two of the Seres Dibros, which are about Avodah Zarah, is Mipia Gevura Shamanim. We heard those directly from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what they refer to as a dibur, because they are the only mitzvahs that were commanded directly from the Rebbeinu Shalom to Klal Yisrael. Someone who learns Torah and doesn't chazer it, he is like somebody who plants and then he doesn't harvest. Now, as an aside, there are Rishonim who learn that this entire list of people who don't have a chiluk olam haba are not necessarily from the pasuk of Kedvar Hashem Baza, because you see certain halach like we just did now. Why is Avodah Zarah called Dvar Hashem? Because you're not listening to the Dibur Hashem. The Gemara didn't clarify each one of these items on the list of how you teach Dvar Hashem Baza. So it's actually a shaila if it's them telling us halacha that Einam Lechelek Le'Naba, or if it's learned out of the pasuk of Dvar Hashem Baza as well. Rabbi Yeshua Eimer Kol Aloi Mitayra Umishkacha. Someone who learns Torah and forgets it. He goes through all the pain of childbirth, and Rachmana Litzlan she has to bury a child. Kiva says it's like a song. Zemer b'chol yoim, zemer b'chol yoim. Torah, if you or Rabbi Kiva did this, how you misader talmudach, no, hayei misader talmudach, learn and be misader what you learned every day. Pavapi, shesader beficha, even though you already know it, you should do it again and again like a zemer. That will make sure that you retain your Torah in Olam Haba b'simcha b'shir. So that those who learn, it's like a song. You don't say, "I heard a song, but I don't need to hear it again." If there's a song that you like, you're going to hear it again and again. So the same thing with learning. If you learn, you should do it again and again, just like a song. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Abu Dimai. Mikra, what does the pasuk mean? Shenemar, where do you see this in the pasuk? Shenemar nefesh amal. If someone harvests amel Allah, his work will be there for him. So Torah works hard for him. Why? Ki akaf olav piyu. What is ki akaf olav piyu? Rashi says mipnei shehu mesim devarim bepiv tamid ka'uku shel chamor. Just like a chamor always has a saddle on it, so too the Torah is always on his lips, and that's why it fights for him. Lishnachrina zemer is kloimar she'oisik b'shirim uvizmiro is tadir nasa zemer. If you constantly tuzach harayim in learning like a song, then your learning will become a zemer. The more you chaz it, the more you know it. Now it's interesting that Okaf, the first to speak out, Aleph Chav Pei is the gematria of 101, because 101 times is the amount of times that you're supposed to chazer something. Okay, Nefesh Amal Amal Baki Amal Apil. Who Amal b'makom zeh, he works very hard in Olam Hazeh to learn Torah. The Torah Aimelas Lei b'makom acher, and his Torah will work for him in Olam Haba, as Rashi says, Shebechazer Shalov looks for him. Muvakeshes Meis Koina Limzer Lei Taimei Torah Ustorah. So now it's saying not only you'll keep your Torah, it's going to go fight for him to unlock more secrets of Torah that the Rebbeinu Shalom should give him. The Kol Kach Lama Lamesha Akaf. Means shekafav piyol divrei Torah, he forced and he bent his mouth to only talk about Torah. Zok Gemara weiter. Amar Rabbi kol Adam la'amal nivra. Adam la'amal yulad. Shenemar ki Adam la'amal yulad. Any day im la'amal poi, im la'amal pen nivra, like to learn Torah, im la'amal malacha nivra, or to work. Kishu Omer, and there are those who learn amal malacha doesn't mean to work. It means to do mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim. What is a person's main focus supposed to be? Learning or doing mitzvahs. Im la'amal, so Zok Gemara, Kishu Omer ki akav alav piyu. Clearly, it's learning. Abu Omer la'amal peh nivra. But dain any day im la'amal Torah im la'amal sicha. We know it's peh, but you could do things with the peh that are not learning. Kishu Omer lo yomush sefer haTorah semi picha Abu Omer la'amal Torah nivra. Behind the Amarava, that's what Rabbi meant when he said, "Kuli gufi derivtkadi." All lives are tarchanim, are hard work. Right? We're all created to work hard. Toive, it's good that a person who is zoichu, someone who merits to have a derivtki dairaisa, that his work is Torah. Ashraf l'misha zocha b'yamalei v'tarchasei b'Torah. Lashon acher derivtki means it's like a long type of container that you use for money. So halavai, if his ruftaki is going to be filled up with Torah. I remember a Mendel Kaplan Tzal would take us to the window, and there would be someone jogging, because the neighborhood of the yeshiva was a nice treed neighborhood, so you'd see joggers jogging by. So he would take us out to the window and says, "Vos zetir don't." And we saw a guy jogging. Like, well, we didn't know what he was talking about. So he says, "Kuk der Mensch, jogt. Von wo kommt der Mensch? Wo geht der Mensch? Weiß ich nicht, aber jagen jagt er. Ihr wisst von was? Von Adam lo Amal Yulad. Ein Mensch darf schwer arbeiten. Nu, als reintan in Amal seinen Teire, jezus zijn met Teire. En als niet echt jagen. It's it's stuck many years later. Zok the Gemara. Noyef Isha. Noyef Isha Chasai Lev. Someone who's Noyef Isha is a Chasai Lev, is not thinking good. This is somebody who learns Torah occasionally and doesn't chazer, as Rashi says. It's Kamisha Ein Lo Isha Uboyel Pamzu Pamzu. He doesn't have a wife to connect with, to build a relationship with. He has a whole bunch of one-night stands, right? That's not a relationship. That's not fulfilling. Shenemar Kinoyim. It's beautiful. Kisishrim Bevitacha. If you watch them in your stomach, Yochaynu. Chaynu means it'll have a basis. It'll be permanent. Yachtav al Sosecha on your lips. Let's see Rashi. Kinoyim Kisishrim Emosai Tishrim Bevitacha. How will it remain in your stomach? If you always keep it on your lips. It's very similar to the saying, a minute on the lips is a lifetime on the hips. So let's look at the whole pasuk. Vav, hanevesh asher biyad rama, mino ezach munager es Hashem umagadev, v'nichrisa hanefesh hahi mikerav hama. Zok to Gemara, who is this person that the Torah is referring to? Menashe ben Chizkiah. This is Menashe ben Chizkiah. So Yoshev v'Doirish v'Agadoy shal Doifi. He would darshan nonsense. Amar, and he would attack the Torah, saying that the Torah is not important. He would say that the Torah is writing things that aren't relevant. And the Gemara gives some examples. The Torah tells us that Timnon was the sister of Loiton. Like, why is this relevant? This is not relevant information. Again, it's not relevant information. Who cares when Reuben went? So he found flowers. Why is that an important story for the Torah to tell us? Now, as an aside, Visimna is a very important word because it represents the 5 chatois hamesos. There's 5 korban chatosis that if something happens to them, you don't redeem them, you don't yirach yistoiv, you let them die and starve. And it's represented by the word Visimna. Vov stands for Vlat chatos. Tov stands for Tumuras chatos. Mem stands for Mace by Leah, if the owner died. Nun stands for Nischapru by Leah. And Ayin stands for Arba's Manai. It's no longer within the period of time that it's allowed to be brought. So, Yotza Baskal of Armaloi, Teishe, sit down. Bachicha Tadaber, you're speaking about your brother. When Imchatit and Doifi, you're saying falsities about your brother. Eila Asisi, this is what I made. Becharashti. If I'm going to be quiet, Rabban Kaviyach was saying, if I'm going to be quiet and let you speak bad against the Torah, then Damisi Hayois Eya Kamoicha. People are going to think that I'm agreeing with you. Therefore, I am going to give you Musar, and I'm going to show how great it is. But all of Meforish Bekavala, and it's Meforish and Kabbalah on him. Woe is to the person who pulls Averis to himself and he condemns himself with Averis that are Bekavle Shashov, that are Averis that he doesn't even have enough from. Shtam is speaking about the Torah. There's no benefit to him. If he steals, he has money, he gets something. Here's an Aver that got him nothing. But he's so burdened with Averis, it's like with a tow truck chain. What does that mean? The Yetzer Hara at first is about as strong as a spider web, a very fine thread, fiber. But at the end, it's going to be so. Once you're entrenched in Aveir, it's like a tow truck chain. The etain Allah that I put on you, mias, so that's no period. Zok Gemara. The etnala mias. No, that's not period. Mias achois loiten tim namai. Lamaisa, he did have a kasha. What is the purpose of achois loiten tim? What are you looking at? Is there did I type you wrong?
The asan.
Oh, the asan Allah mias. Now that we're here, so the go period. The asan Allah lamaisa, we encountered it. Now that we encountered this question, mias achois loiten tim namai. Now that we brought it up, let's not to say what it means. Of course, it's not a waste. So tomorrow, Timna bas Malachim. Timna was the daughter of Malachim. The Chesiv in the different was Aleph Loitum. When it says Aleph, Aleph means she's a member. The Aleph, the 1,000 of Loitum, means she's a member of of some special ruler. Aleph Timna. The Chol Aleph is a Malchusa B'loi Tagi. It's a Malchus, it's big hat, no cattle. No, he comes from a Malchus, but he's not ruling over anybody. He doesn't have a purpose. So therefore, since she was from Malchus, but she didn't really have anything that she was powered over, so she was like the official minister of nothing. So Boi Ligiyure, she wanted to at least become a Giyurish, be part of Klal Yisrael. So Basel Eitzel Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Loi Kablua. They refused to accept her as part of Klal Yisrael. So she said, "I got to do whatever I could." She was willing even to be a pilegesh of Alifas just to somehow get into the family. I'm better off being a shivcha to this nation, and not be a knacker in a useless nation. Who came out of her? Novak Mina Amalek, the Tsar Inul Yisrael, who he suffered from still today. Why? My taima, we shouldn't have pushed her away. The Ramban speaks about this. This is the source of anti-Semitism. So you see, and that was the right thing to do. Mother to do the right thing. It still led to such sinner, because that's the Metzias. People who are rejected are upset. Kol shekein v'kol shekein chas v'shalom, someone who hurts his friend's feelings. What's that? If Lamaisa, it was the right thing. I guess from this perspective, it was like, but I don't know if it was wrong. So it's talking about there. I guess the Gemara was in the ver. Okay. But they stand corrected. It was in the ver that they did. I don't know who was going to marry her. You know, your son should marry her. Why should my son marry her? So that's what everyone said. So Levi says, okay, I'll do it. But Yelech Ruvain b'mei ksir chitim. Ruvain went b'mei ksir chitim. What is the relevance of that? Amarav by Yitzchak Amarav. I'm sorry.
Was acting so wisely, why were they punished?
Right.
It explains that even though forebears could never sanction someone marrying her when he need, they should have allowed her to come closer to God by joining his people.
So they should have accepted her as a Giyurish, but not to marry in. Okay, Zaktimar Amarav Rabbi by Yitzchak Amarav Yikan Tzadikim Shein Poishtin Yudeim Begezel. You see that they don't steal. Why? Why is it? How do you see that they don't take gezel? Zok to Gemara. Let me see if Rashi says, how do you see that they don't take gezel? Let me see if I can find it. B'meik sechidim, it's la'acher shekotru asoda. B'meik sechidim means after the chidim were cut, so therefore the ba'ilim aren't makbid anymore. Shakol rishon likonos b'soich stei chaverim. Although some Rishonim say, what do you mean? That would be if it was after the make sir chitim. He went during the make sir chitim. So how could Rashi say that that's the time when no one's makbid? So the other Rishonim say it was you make sir chitim, but he didn't take chitim. What did he take? He took dudaim. Okay, v'yimati dudaim b'sada. My dudaim. What are dudaim? Amarav Rav Yavruchi. Rashi says I don't know what this is. And Levi or Mesigli or Rabbi and Amar. It's a visky. So Rashi does say Savisky is jasmine, and it's a plant that looked like a human. It's a plant that looks like a human. If you look it up on, there's a certain plant that looks very much like a human. The shape of the plant, the shape of the root. Amar of Alexandri, Kala Isaac B'Torah L'Shma, Mesim Shalom B'Pamali Shalmaila B'Pamali Shalmata. Make shalom between the Malachim and Klal Yisrael. Shenemar Oyechzak B'Mauzi. If you hold on to my ma'uzu, which my Torah, my strength that I like, Yasha Shalom Li, Shalom Yasali. So there's a double lotion. There'll be Shalom L'Maila and L'Mata. Rav Omer Kilu Bana Palter in Shalmaila V'Shalmata. It's as if he built a palace in Shemayim and down here as well. Shenemar Ba'osim Devarai B'Picha U'B'Tzel Yodai Kisi Sicha L'Ntoya Shemayim U'Yasidar. Rabbi Yechid Omer Af Megan Al Kol Olam Kuloi. When someone learns Torah, it protects the world. Shenemar uvitzel yadi kisi sicha. V'levi Omer af makar b'shageula. Learning Torah brings the geula, hastens the geula. Shenemar v'la Omar letzion amiata. Let me make sure that I'm reading the word properly. So we look up the ayin over here. No, it's not over here. Is it not an ayin? Shneimar. No, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong pasuk. I'm supposed to be looking at. It's Samach. I'm sorry. So Samach says. V'asim devar beficha u'b'tel yadoi kisisicha l'ntayah shemayim v'lisat eretz v'leimer l'tzion amiyasa. So that's referring to the pasuk of learning Torah. Amar Shlakish kol amalamed is ben chaver Torah my love l'kosov kilo osai. It's if he made the child. Shenemar v'sanefesh asher osu b'choron. Avram taught them Torah and it's considered like he made those nefashos. Rabbi Lazar, let me see what the Gra says. Who this is? Beis Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar, Aimer, Kilu Ason l'divrei Torah. It's as if you created the divrei Torah. Shenemru shmartem is divrei abrus hazois v'asisa moisam. So it's as if you. I'm not sure if this means if you made the divrei Torah or if you did a mitzvah. I think it means as if you made the Torah. What does he say? Kilu Ason. He made the words of the Torah. Rav Omar Kilu Asai la'atzmoi. It's as if he made himself. How do you create yourself? By learning Torah. Shneimar v'asisa moisam al turki oisam ela atem. Amar bavo kol hama'asa eschaverei l'dvar mitzvah. Someone who gets somebody else to do a mitzvah. Ma'ilo v'akasav ki ilu asai as if you did it yourself. Shneimar, what did Hashem tell Moshe? Umatcha, your stick asher kisa v'yas yar that you hit the yar with. V'chi Moshe ko. Moshe never hit the yar with his stick. Somebody who's a catalyst and gets his friend to do a mitzvah, my love of kilo as if he did it. Apikoris. Now we'll finally figure out what an apikoris is. Rav Chanina Amar Tavayu Zeh Hamavaza Talmidei Chacham. You know what's an apikoris? Somebody who is mavaza Talmidei Chacham. Zog to Gemara weiter. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amar Zeh Mavaza Chaveiroi B'fnei Kamacham. Not even even a lesser madrega of embarrassing your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham. So Mavaz Talmud Chacham Atzmoi is Megal upon the Torah Shaloi Kalach. If I define an apikoris as the lower level crime, as being Mavaza, your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham, then apikoris, which is also undefined, can apply to the higher crime of being Mavaza the Talmud Chacham himself. Is that apikoris? So Megal upon the Torah, what is Megal upon the Torah? It can't be a lesser thing, which would be being Mavaza your friend in front of a Talmud Chacham. Dr. Gemara. Which we had on the Marala for someone who makes fun of the Torah and says this is a useless comment. There are those who say that this discussion happened on the Sefer on the Gal upon the Torah. Rava Rab Chanina. Amri, they said it's Hamavaz Talmud Chacham. So instead of them having this machloikis about apikoris, the machloikis is about Megal upon the Torah Shaloi Halacha. So he holds out about Talmud Chacham. Rabbi Yochanan B'Shimon Levi Amar Zeh Mavaza Es Chaver B'Fnei Talmud Chacham. So we can ask the same shadow, but in the opposite way. If Mavaza Talmud Chacham Atzmoi is Megal upon the Torah, then you could say Hamavaza Chaver B'Fnei Talmud Chacham apikoris. Ella, I'm sorry, I put the have in the wrong place. So Bishlam Mavaza Talmud Chacham Atzmoi Megal upon the Torah Havi comma Mavaza Chaver B'Fnei Talmud Chacham will be apikoris. Elaman Damar Mavaza Chaver B'Fnei Talmud Chacham is Megal upon the Torah have not apikoris, which is a lesser crime. Kagoin man, it can't be referring to Mavaza Talmud Chacham. Dr. Gemara, Omar, Rav Yosef, Kagoin Hani the Amri. Like what we said over here, Maya Hani Lon Rabbanon. What do the Rabbanon do for us? Lididhu Karu, they learn amongst themselves. Lididhu Tani, but they don't impact us. And it's not true, because we know they impact us. They're learning, we just learned earlier, their learning sustains the world. Amalei Abaye, Hai Megala Panim B'Torah Namihu. That's also Megala Panim B'Torah, because that's also wrong shot in the puzzle. If it's not from my Torah, so that's not only an apikoris, but that's also a higher level crime of Megala Panim B'Torah Shaloi Halacha. Amar Nachman Yitzchak Mehacha Nami Shemamina. We also learn from a different pasuk that that's wrong. The Torah says that saying that the Torah doesn't impact the world is not true. Shenemar v'nesasi l'chala mokem b'avuram. I'm going to carry the whole place. I'm going to forgive the whole place because of the tzaddikim. So you see clearly the tzaddikim have a real impact on the world. Ella kagoyin de Yosef kamei Rabbe. You know what Adab Ikaris is? Someone who's sitting in front of his Rebbe. And in the discussion, they had to reference a different discussion that they had about a different subject. And in that different subject, they were trying to say, together, him and his Rebbe might have been mechadish something together. So he is equally responsible for that other halacha that he wanted to cite from a different conversation in a different place. But this is how he cited it. This is what we said there. Amar Hachi Amar Mar. This is what Rebbe said there. Since he didn't give the cover to his Rebbe, that is not because Amar Mar. Hachi Amar Mar. Come. Rav Amar Kagan Hana Devei Binyamin Asa, like from the household of Binyamin the doctor. The Amar who would say, Maya Hanilon Rabbanon. What exactly have the Rabbanon help us? Was the Rabbanon, the Machanat Tures, right? Loi Shoru Lon Urva. They didn't say that you're allowed to eat a raven. They didn't make a chiddush you're allowed to eat something. That's the usher. And they didn't tell us that you're not allowed to eat a yoina. So they didn't tell us anything that we don't know. Rava Kavamaisa Trefasa, the baby Yamin Kamei, when a trefa from this household came to him, he have a chazab time latera. If he would see a reason to be materit, Amalu. Texting, look, the kasharina l'chorva. You see, I'm doing something for you. You see, I am being matter for you. No, if you don't say we didn't do nothing. There's a very interesting halacha here. Why didn't he say? What do you mean we're not matter for you? The halacha is a ben pekua doesn't need shchita. It's going to be mutter to eat with the shchita of its mother. So they could have said, what do you mean? We were matter a ben pekua for you, that would be like an erev without shchita, and we asered a yoina for you because it's only an animal, a behema that was found inside a shechted animal. You don't need shchita. But if it was a bird that was found inside a shechted animal, you would need shchita. So he says right there, right? Someone asked you, from another first right there. We can ask on this guy. What do you mean I didn't do anything for you? I was matter a ben pekua, and I asered a ben pekua. That's a bird. But he said, anytime they came to Shaila, I haven't done nothing for you. Look what I've done for you. I guess he could have done it too when they came to sell the chametz. Okay, we'll stop here.